Hey everybody, this week's Torah portion is Parshas Beshalach, and in the beginning of this week's Torah portion we have the famous incident of the splitting of the sea. And in order to facilitate that, Moshe raises his hands and the sea splits. And we find something very similar happening at the end of the Parsha. At the end of the Parsha, the Jews go to battle against the Amalekites, and also Moshe raises his hands in order to help the Jews win the battle. And throughout the entire story of the Exodus, we find Moshe going back and forth between using his hands and using a stick, using a stick, using his hands. Why is it that Moshe sometimes uses a stick and sometimes uses his hand whenever something miraculous is about to happen? Why doesn't he always use his hand or always use a stick? And one of the ideas our rabbis say is that there are two ways for a leader to lead. One is with the stick, which means to enforce very strict rules and be very strong and firm like a stick. The other is to be very gentle, which is coined in the Talmud as using the right hand to draw people in, being gentle and kind and using very soft words to reprove somebody. So sometimes a leader has to use the hand and sometimes a leader has to use the stick. Those are the two methods of leadership, and that's why sometimes Moshe, when being the leader, when acting as a leader and helping the Jews do something, he will switch back and forth between using his hands and using a stick in order to get the message across that sometimes the leader should be using the hand, the gentle approach, and sometimes the leader should be using the stick, the more strict approach. Now, where did Moshe get this idea from? He got it from none other than Hashem himself. Because when God first came to speak to Moshe and give him the mission of going to the Jewish people, they had a long back and forth, and one of the things that Moshe said was, the Jews will never believe me. Even if I tell them what you say, they're not going to believe me. They're not going to do what you want. To which Hashem said, I'm going to let you see two miracles. Take your stick and throw it on the ground. And the stick turned into a snake. That was number one. Then he said, let me show you miracle number two. Put your hand inside your shirt. And he did that, and his hand came out, and it was all white. Now, why did God need to give Moses two miracle signs in order to convince the Jewish people? One would clearly have done, and if one wouldn't work, why would two work? Maybe he should have done 3, 4, 5. Why specifically those two signs? Why a sign with the hand and a sign with the stick? What God was doing was telling Moses that if you want to lead this people, you have to understand the following. When you feel that they're not doing what you want, there are different kind of people. Some people, what they need is the stick. They need a strong response. But there are some people who need a very kind and gentle response. But there's not one size fits all. Each person in the nation is going to have a different approach to how you do it, but in general there are going to be two kinds of people: those who need the gentle approach and those who need the strict approach. And in all ways of leadership there have to be those two going back and forth. The leader has to be able to use the gentle approach, the hand, and also the sometimes strict approach, the stick, but always with the best intentions of the people that they are serving in mind. On behalf of Makar, Shabbat Shalom.